Welcome to this week's edition of Flashback Friday, your opportunity to get some good review by listening to episodes from the past that Jason has handpicked to help you today in the present and propel you into the future. Enjoy.
Speakers, publishers, consultants, coaches, and info marketers unite. The Speaking of Wealth Show is your roadmap to success and significance. Learn the latest tools, technologies, and tactics to get more bookings, sell more products, and attract more clients. If you're looking to increase your direct response sales, create a big-time personal brand, and become the go-to guru, the Speaking of Wealth Show is for you. Here's your host, Jason Hartman.
It's my pleasure to welcome Scott Petinga to the show. He is a very interesting guy. He's the founder of a company called Accuracy with an unusual spelling. Today we're going to talk about some things that will absolutely amaze you. And it's something you've heard about. It's the world of big data and how marketers can use big data to increase revenue and do all kinds of other amazing, amazing things. Scott, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Give our listeners a sense of geography and 10,000 data points on yourself. Where are you located?
I am located in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, fantastic. What does Accuracy do?
Accuracy is a communications agency with a focus on big data and analytics.
This is literally amazing. I mean, every person in America, from what you say, has about 10,000 data points stored somewhere in the cyberspace of big data that determine their behaviors and what websites they like and what they buy. And where do I start on this? It's mind-boggling.
I talk about it all the time, and from a transparency standpoint, the biggest thing you can think about is, right, when we were kids and we read the Brothers Grimm novel, Hansel and Gretel. Hansel and Gretel essentially left little trails of breadcrumbs throughout the forest, and we do the exact same thing as consumers. As we consume things and just go about our lives, we essentially leave these trails, and marketers actually follow us. And they pick those trails up and they decipher that information and they understand who we are geographically, essentially where we live, and demographically, and that's the makeup of who we are. Household makeup, are we married? Are we single? Do we have kids? And behaviorally, what do we consume? So what types of products do we like? Do we lend to? And even now with the power of social media, things that we like on sites like Instagram and Pinterest, and what our settlements is to brands and to certain types of objects.
The listeners are mostly solo entrepreneurs, small business owners. Of course, from a consumer standpoint, we're all concerned about big data and what it's doing to us. Tell us how we can use this. We're not giant corporations here. Is there anything that the smaller business can do with this?
I think a lot of small businesses, right, if they do have a point of sale system, is to make sure they're starting to capture transactional data at the consumer level.
Right.
What that means is when, Jason Hartman actually walks into a location and makes a purchase, make sure that when Jason comes up to the cash register, it's just not rung the cash. That the POS system actually has the ability to put Jason Hartman's information in it, such as name, address, city, state, and zip. And then we're able to do some pretty hardcore analytics once we have enough of that information in one place.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about a brick and mortar business. What about an online business?
And the same thing holds true for online. Again, a lot of times when you do check out, they have that information, right? You have to check out, you have to give a postal address. The great thing about shopping online is there's always the ability of who's the payee and where's the stuff gets shipped. So you can understand if it's a gift or if it's being bought from a consumer standpoint, but he's buying it and having it shipped to work, or vice versa, where he's buying it under work credentials and having it shipped to his personal residence. I think it's all about knowing who your customers are. There's a lot of tribal knowledge that floats around companies. Sometimes they think they believe who their customers is, but 9 times out of 10, when we actually collect the data and analyze it, the customer isn't who people think it is.
So what do? We really want to collect zip code. And I've noticed that, by the way, with some retailers, just brick and mortar retailers. Of course, online, you're always putting in your zip code because they got to ship you the product, unless it's a digital product. So a lot of our solopreneurs listening, that are selling digital products, mostly educational products, you may or may not be asking for a zip code to process a credit card, especially a PayPal, I would think you're emailing it back to them. I mean, mostly, I guess, you're putting all that billing information, but, not always, I don't think. So that zip code is very meaningful, right?
Birds of a feather flock together. So if you think of your home and your residence, a lot of people in your neighborhood share the same structure. Houses relatively cost the same in neighborhoods. People essentially fit into cookie cutter pattern, whether they have the same educational level, the same family makeup, the same traits when it comes to lifestyle. So right across the street from my house is a lake. Of course, if you're living on the lake, you're probably into boating and fishing and some of those other outdoor activities. And again, that holds true with some of your neighbors on other things as well. If you look around, some of the newer developments, a lot of the people are new families, parents are the same age, kids are the same age, and so forth.
Tell us some more things about this. I mean, in looking at your website, there are all kinds of services and solutions here. You talk about data services, systems integration, campaign management, business intelligence tools, profiling, segmentation, analytics, predictive modeling, forecasting. Wow, there's a lot to this.
There definitely is. We're a firm believer from a marketing perspective is trying to understand what works and what doesn't. And by doing so, it allows you to be really efficient and allows you to maximize your impact. For every dollar spent, what's the return on investment? Mm-hmm. We tell our clients this all the time is, there used to be a saying, 50% of marketing budgets, you don't necessarily know how they're being accounted for.
I think it was David Ogilvy. He said, I am firmly convinced I know that half of my advertising and marketing is a waste of money. I just don't know which half.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's not true anymore, though. But in the olden days, that really was the case.
You can pretty much track everything. We set up a lot of campaigns like clinical trials. What we do is we'll stimulate some parts of the country. We don't stimulate other parts of the country. And for all intents and purposes, they essentially look the same. They got the same types of people. The cities are the same size. Weather patterns are the same. And what we do is we look at those areas that we stimulate and those areas we don't to see if we've actually increased purchase rates in those areas that were stimulated compared to those areas that don't.
Some of the things I want to ask you about, and just take whatever you want. I think our listeners want to know, how do they better segment their lists? What can they do with marketing correlations to increase revenue? What are many marketers completely missing out on? We have all these assets. We have this list. We have this database that we've spent a lot of money and time developing. What opportunities, just the low-hanging fruit right in front of us? What are the modern strategies for building market share? Of course, you've alluded to some of these, but I just want to drill down more.
The easiest ways to segment is based off of RFM, and that's recency, frequency, and monetary. Mm-hmm. That's looking at how often your consumers come into the location. When was the last time the consumer came in? How often within a 12 to 18 month period of time?
Or bought something online. Doesn't need to be coming in, right? Same thing.
Same rationale. And the last one is how much they spent during that period of time. So that's one of the easiest ways you can segment.
RFM.
RFM.
Okay, say what that means. Recency,
frequency, and monetary. Some clients are truly segmented by gender. So, if you're a clothing store that is geared towards women or men, again, you most likely only have one type of gender. And then within there, you can get down to the sort of generation or age brackets, under 18, 18 to 25, 25, 35, etc. Sometimes we have clients that segment based off of ethnicity. And the reason being, it's all about relevancy. So what's the reason why you want to segment? And a lot of it just comes down to being able to have a more intimate conversation.
No question about it. The intimate conversation with that consumer is just critical because consumers, they expect that. Sometimes they think it's a little creepy for sure, but they also like it. Facebook has just done a masterful job at this. I remember when my assistant got engaged, and suddenly, all of her Facebook ads started changing for wedding planning, right? Then when she got married, they changed again. And then when she had a baby, it changed again. The marketers can just walk through life events and life stages with people incredibly well nowadays. You probably have some thoughts on Facebook in particular. Until really the last year or so, I don't think they did that great a job of it. But in about the last year, Facebook has just come on strong in terms of the relevancy advertising.
Absolutely. And a lot of it comes down to retargeting. Most people don't realize is what retargeting is when you actually go to a brand's website and then you log into your Facebook.
Having it follow you around, yeah.
Yep. Not only having you follow you around, but some marketers are even getting more sophisticated, and the ads that appear up in Facebook are the actual item you were looking for on that retail.
Let me just give you a little testimonial on that. Two retailers, and by the way, I had one of them on the show, and that was Patrick Byrne, the founder and CEO of Overstock.com. I had him on talking about being the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin. Interesting conversation. But Overstock is huge into retargeting. I remember I went on there and I had this challenge in my last last house, I kind of challenged myself, can I furnish and decorate my entire house online? So it was just kind of a weird little challenge I gave myself. I'd never done it before. I always shopped for sofas and big items like that in a brick and mortar store. But I went online and I looked at Amazon and Overstock and different places, and I was looking for a sofa. And I couldn't believe how accurate the retargeting was. It was masterful. And the same thing was true with Lamps Plus.
It's amazing too about, Facebook. I mean, they're starting to get into facial recognition. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but it's pretty amazing. If you actually take a picture of someplace outside and, your spouse is in it or your kids or your friends, people who are on Facebook, when you upload it to Facebook, it'll put a little square around their head because it essentially recognizes them.
Right.
But because of what Facebook's up to these days, if somebody else is in the picture, say a complete stranger to you, but that person is a Facebook member and Facebook, they've tagged themselves in Facebook before, it will allow you to tag them as well in your picture. And it just happened to me. My kids were in karate and I was actually taking a picture into the mirror and I'm sitting next to a complete stranger and Facebook brought up her face and knew who she was and it asked me if I wanted to tag her. And I thought twice about it because I almost did it just to see what her reaction would be when she got home.
Right. I know. Creepy, scary. And last night I just watched for the second time the movie Minority Report. So that's where we're going, whether we like it or not, for better or worse. Yeah, very interesting. Scott, give out your website and tell people where they can find you.
It's accuracy.com, and that's AKQURACY.com.
And just spell that again because it's a strange spelling.
AKQURACY.
Accuracy.com. Any closing thoughts or comments?
I think the biggest thing is definitely understand who your customers are, but sometimes don't forget, as an individual, you're a consumer as well. So put yourself in the consumer's shoes. How would you behave if you were the consumer? How would you act? What would be impactful for you? What would be relevant? I think so many times once people own companies and they become marketers, they forget essentially who they are. And that's at the end of the day, we're just consumers of product. Think it that way. And then a lot of this stuff comes really easy. And, a lot of it's just common sense.
Like the old saying, walk in the other Indians' moccasins for a mile. So you have their experience, have the customer experience. Yeah. Well, Scott Petinga, thank you so much for joining us today. This was a fascinating discussion.
Thanks so much.
Copyright the Hartman Media Company. For publication rights and interviews, please email media@jasonhartman.com. This show offers very general information. Opinions of guests are their own. Nothing contained herein should be considered personalized, personal, financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. Every investor's strategy and goals are unique. You should consult with a licensed real estate broker or agent or other licensed investment, tax, and/or legal advisor before relying on any information contained herein. Information is not guaranteed. Please call 714-820-4200 and visit www.jasonhartman.com for additional disclaimers, disclosures, and questions.